Hey guys, this is Ethan at Merlin Models, and welcome to our video that goes over the painted versions of the ESB ATST. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to go over the assembly process for a painted model, as well as show you the differences between a regular version and a modified version that includes the upgraded parts that had been discussed in the forums over the past couple of months. So what is available to you to purchase at this particular moment, half of the extra models are regular and half of them will have the extra added parts. So we'll go over that. And then if you guys have not purchased one already, feel free to hop onto the website and grab one of these before they're gone because we won't be making any more. So first off, let's go over what's in the box. So inside your box, there is a large foam pad at the very bottom, and that's going to contain your base. And we'll go over how to install that later. But every single other part is packaged just about individually in their own cardboard boxes with their own foam and packing. We've made some very slight adjustments to make these extra safe, but by putting individual things like this is just one leg in its own box, we want to make sure that no parts can touch other parts, and there's an extra barrier for impacts and things like that. So the extra parts or extra exclusive that you're going to receive is going to be your signed and numbered plaque. We did notice after shipping that the original silver that we used to put the numbers on just never dried. So if you have anything that is smudged for both the number or the autograph, you can easily remove that with lacquer thinner, and then you can send this back to us in just a flat envelope, and we will re-sign it with a Sharpie branded silver that actually does dry and send it back to you. So that will be for some people. Then, of course, you've got your first edition exclusive plaque that nobody else will receive, which is fantastic. And then in here, you have your coin, which is in its own plastic case that is magnetized. So you can take that apart, play with the coin, put it back in. It stands up on its own, etc., etc. Very nice. So let's move this stuff off to the side. You're going to need Allen wrenches. So just a basic set of Allen wrenches to be able to do your installation. And then, of course, whatever you want to use to unpack. These little boxes contain some of your small parts. So the ACC is your accessories. So if we pop this one open, we've got our bottom shield plates and the front shields. So our first attempt for installation on these was to try to make this as easy as possible. These are the most fragile parts of the entire model, so we left them off. However, on the shields, there is permanent sticky glue. So you can attempt to put that in there and just have it stay there. And then if you were to move this model to a new home or something like that, you could take that off. That is not a requirement. If you would like to, you can take some Elmer's glue, some super glue, some epoxy, whatever glue that you have, and you can put some just on this square area, and then just turn your body upside down, place these, and let the glue dry, and it'll be permanently in place. Just be aware that if you're handling this a lot, or if you're moving, you have to be very careful, because this is one of the pain points as far as breakage. The other major pain point are the shields. So this is your left-hand shield. You can tell that by the detail that's on the front. And it is attached just by a very small piece of plastic. So it sits on there just like this. So this is also a point that breaks often when moving, transporting, if you're doing any type of posing and not paying attention, etc. So you can put a little bit of glue here, and then I'll show you where to attach that onto the leg. But just be aware that this is a spot that you've got to be very careful with. If you break it, we can provide you with replacements. You just have to message us, and it'll just be a small fee for the shipping. But try not to break it, because there's no way for us to paint match once all of these are gone, because we don't have any. So those are those two pieces. Next, we separated the head rack. So that fits perfectly inside the box. So you got these. These are attached with a flexible glue, so you can move each of these little spots just a little bit, and that gives us enough room to be able to just place this on top without having to glue it in, which is nice. So we've got that part. And then the last one is going to be the side gun, which also has a nice square pin, so you do not have to glue this in place. You can just slide it on. If you'd like to glue it in place, you can absolutely glue it in place. That is just up to you. So those are the small little bits. Let's go ahead and open up our legs. So here we've got a left leg. The hip is already attached, and you'll just have to loosen this screw to apply it. We did do some initial tightening on the joints, but there are a couple of spots that, as a painted person that does not have paint on their own, that you need to be able to pay attention to when you're putting this stuff together and posing. So this is how it sits. There are some pads on the bottom to keep it from scraping the base. This area here, you can move a little bit without scrapage. But what you're going to find is that we've got inside this joint, this is a metal on metal contact. So I painted it as best as I could inside, but if you bend this back and forth a lot, it is going to scratch the paint off. That's no problem for anybody who's building a model kit and wants to repose it and just do some touch-ups. But since you guys have purchased a painted model, you just have to be very careful. I would recommend putting this in its neutral pose, which is exactly like this, and then you can tighten these screws and not move them. The other major pain point is here at the ankle. So this is also a metal on metal contact, and if you bend this back and forth, you will scrape the paint off. So that's just something to be aware of. I'm assuming that ILM had some way to deal with that, or they just continually touched it up after doing movements. But again, this was only visible for 3 seconds, so you wouldn't be able to tell if anything got scratched anyway. The top part is going to be tight, but that is easy to adjust. You can just loosen this screw right here, but it should be tight and you shouldn't have to loosen it. Just make sure that when you're grabbing it to move it, grab it from the top and the bottom. Don't grab this, but just grab it from the top and the bottom. Just be careful of these parts. You don't want to grab this and squeeze. And then back here, this one comes out, goes up and down. So that is one leg. We'll just open up the other leg and set that one to the side for now. Package is exactly the same way. But you will notice that on the back side of this leg, you've got a off camera written on that side, and then this side is not weathered, and this side is weathered. So that's the major difference. Okay, so this box says covers and necks. So this has some accessory parts in there. So you've got your rubber neck, foot, foot number 2, back of the body, and the neck joint. So we've got all of those. This is the body. So we've got foam in the front and the back, and then unwrap this guy. So let's go over a little bit of details on the body. So the first thing that is different for the modified version, the upgraded version, versus the standard version is the actual design and cut of these Formula One parts are completely different. So you can see that this is jointed, whereas on the original ESBs that we saw, it was not jointed. So this has been modified. There's an extra hose that's been placed here. The front has been completely modified. So there are parts on the inside. Let me see if I can point without using my fat fingers. So this has been modified here. You've got new parts here. We've got a new assembly for the side. We've got new assemblies back in the back section. On the front, there's two new parts here. And then, of course, on the bottom, you've got some pretty hefty new shields. So all of that has been different. So quite a bit of modifications done to the body to make that the upgraded version. And again, these are available if you'd like to purchase a painted one that has been modified. So that's our body. So we'll set that here. And then last but not least, we've got our head. And then we're ready to start assembly. So the head is pressed into a little foam cavity, and then there's a foam block that presses that into the box. So we'll set that to the side. So you can see here's the head in all of its glory. The main adjustments here is the addition of this part and the addition of these shields here. So that's the upgrade for the new parts. We have attached all of the hoses and cables already for you. So that's going to be the main part of this video, is going over each one of these individually and showing you exactly where they go and how they connect. So we are going to change the camera setup now and move on to actual assembly. And we're going to start with the head connecting to the body and get all of that set up for you. And then attaching the legs is super simple. And then we'll get that attached to the base. So let's set up and move on. Okay, guys, so the first step here is we're going to be putting our neck together. So you need your neck joint, and you need to unscrew your very first screw, which goes right here. So I'm using a 5/32 Allen wrench to work with the large bolts. That is the same wrench that is on the legs, just so you guys are aware. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is loosen this bolt up a little bit and make sure that when you tighten it, you can, with friction, angle this back and forth. So that just gives you some motion. Then we're going to slide this guy in place. And one side is threaded and one side is not threaded. So just get that locked in place. Now, before even tightening it, let's see what our pressure is like. And then I am just going to tighten this up just a smidge. So that was like 1/8 of a turn, and that's good enough. No need to do any more. Now we've got our neck, and we're going to put the long part here facing upwards. So you can just slide that right over. Then we're going to grab our head, and while we put the head on, I'm going to shift this sideways. You can see this extrusion sticking up. This is where the hose, the spring hose on the back, is going to sit. No glue needed. All we have to do is take this, slide it into the groove here, and then while we're pressing it down, we're just going to put this guy in place. So it's just sliding down. And now you can see that I have put the spring over the top, and then we're just going to let that spring bend, because if you leave it straight, then you won't be able to press the head all the way down. And there you go. And then you can kind of work that to the shape that you want later on. So that's our very first step, is just getting that head on. Now we're going to move camera angles and go over, before we do that, I can show you where this hose goes. So we're going to move these silicone hoses to the side. This hose here is going to go on the big nodule right here, okay? So you can just take that and press it in. And it's just going to sit there. Again, if you'd like to glue it, you can glue it, but it just sits there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you where to put all these silicone hoses, and you can choose to glue them or not. I know that this is a difficult thing for somebody who's not a model maker, so we're just going to go really slow, but there was no way that we could have all of this attached together and even think about surviving international shipping. So I apologize for that, but we're going to do it nice and slow and careful. And I used needle nose pliers, but we're going to use tweezers, and I'll just show you where they sit, and we're just going to kind of pop them into place, okay? So moving camera. Okay, so you guys can see our little silicone hoses here. We're going to do these first 3 first. So as I am looking, this guy, let's move this out of the way. This one right here is supposed to go around and into that hole. That's it, okay? The next one is this guy, which is going to go over the top. So we're going to put him through. And then he goes into this hole, just like that. And then last but not least, we've got this guy right here. And you might could have done him first because he goes underneath that one we just did. We're going to slide him underneath. And he goes in the left. So the right goes into the left goes into the right, the middle loops around and goes into the right. Now, if you wanted to, you could put a little drop of super glue in here, but they stay. I mean, you can't mess with this and be posing it and all that kind of stuff and expect them to not pop out, but they will stay in there as long as this is static. Now, let's rotate around. This one that's on the side goes right in here. Just like that. And then this one is the only one that's a little bit weird. So this is your longest one. And on the unmodified version, there was a little spot to put it in the back here, but there doesn't look to be one on the new version. I think they might have glued it on top of one of these car pieces. So what we're going to do is just tuck it in behind an element. And I'm just going to leave it there if possible. So it is literally just sitting behind this piece on top of this piece. There's also a little bit of a gap back here. I don't know if you can see this. So you can see this little gap here. You could squeeze it into this little gap and then glue it in. There is a nipple on top of this piece. And my guess is that they glued it on top of that. But to make it easy for transport, I don't like to glue all these in place. So I'm just going to put it here and call it a day. And that's it. So everything is installed. That's where all the hoses go. Now, again, some of them might pop out. So just re-reference this video if you need to whenever you're putting the legs on. But that is the hardest part of the entire build. Take your time. Again, I'm using tweezers, but you can use small needle nose pliers as well. There's plenty of room to move stuff. Okay, so let's reset the camera and we'll get the legs put on. Okay, so for this step, go ahead and grab your base. You will have holes already pre-drilled. Don't worry if you get any finger oil on here. You can wipe that off very easily. So the first thing that we're going to do is grab our screw. Now, problem with the screws. So we did not put the screws in the first batch of shipments that came out. So if you do not have a screw in your box, then order a 1024 1.5 from Amazon or your local hardware store, and then reach out to customer service through Josh, and we'll give you a $10 store credit for replacing the screw. So I deeply apologize for that, but we just totally whiffed on putting them because we were trying to figure out where to put them for safety, and then it just didn't get in the box. So they are in the box from everything that is shipped out from this day forward. So there's that. Okay, so when you have your screw, I'm going to lift this up and I'm just going to put it in to the hole so that it's in place. And then I'm going to attach it to the front portion. Well, I guess you can make a choice. Depends on where you want it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to put it in the second one. So I'm going to put it in the second one. This is just making a choice. So let's tilt this to the side. Grab a Phillips head. And then we're just going to screw this tight. Oh, yeah, no, this is right. And you've got your foot. So this is the right leg. This is the off-camera leg. And that is nicely in place. Now, when you're putting your feet on, one foot has a lot more weathering than the other foot. You'll see that this is dark, this is light. The light side is the one that goes over here. So you're just going to pop that into place. If this doesn't go all the way down, it means that the screw is pushing forward just a little bit too far, and you might need to pop off. There's 2 tabs underneath. So you might just pop off that tab. If it's not already popped off, I might have already done it for you. And then it just fits perfectly. So just pay attention to that. That would be the only reason why it wouldn't pop into place. So we've got this. We're going to go ahead and set this off to the side. We're going to grab our left leg. We're going to angle this part out a little bit and remove the screw. On your left leg, you're going to rotate the joint so that the head of the screw is facing downwards. On the right leg, so the difference between the two, the screws face up on the right leg, down on the left leg. So just rotate as needed. So we're going to grab this guy, and then we're going to grab our head assembly. And this is going to be paint on paint contact here. So you're just going to wiggle this back and forth. And it is going to scratch off some paint, but it's all paint that's underneath. Give it a good blow. And then we'll just tighten that up. You can leave it loose enough to where you can bend it. So that was just finger tight. And then we're just going to do the same thing to the other leg. And that's going to give us our platform. So I am holding on to mostly the leg on the other side. There we go. Okay, so now that we pressed this side on. The only thing that I did was just set us up so that our other leg is now even. So you can just do some slight movements. You can go ahead and grab your other foot. Get that pressed down. Then we've got the last couple pieces to add. So your back will slide on. Basically, this edge right here matches up with the crack on both sides. So we're going to press that in place. Just make sure. So I'm trying to touch metal parts when I'm doing any type of pushing. Okay. So you can do some small adjustments. So our back is on. The head rack, you're just going to set in place. There you go. Just move it with your fingers. The side gun, I'm just going to show you where to put it. So that just goes into its slot. Just be very gentle. And now you've got your two shields. So they go, there's a circular disc with square holes just underneath the front. So I'm just going to press them in. And for this model, I'm not going to use glue, but again, if you'd like to, you can use glue, but they will stay with this double-sided sticky glue for a while. Okay, so then the last thing is these shields. Again, these are the most fragile parts. So on a leg, right here, you'll see the split where you can tighten or loosen the leg. There's a crack. The shield is going to go on the bottom of that crack. Can't see it? Okay, so you can see this crack right here. So if you just put the shield parallel to that crack, it'll look just like this. And that's maybe a 5mm gap that you would leave so you don't press it flush. You're going to pull it out a little bit. So about 5mm, quarter of an inch. And it just glues right in place. And then the other one, again, you can see this crack right here. So it just goes right below that, parallel to it. So if I put this in place, it's going to go in place just about like that. And that's where it sits. So again, Elmer's glue, super glue, epoxy, whatever you want, you can glue that in place. If you want to try the tacky glue, you can try the tacky glue. What we found is that these shields will droop over time, which is why we didn't pre-tacky them. But that's it. Aside from that, you're all set. We recommend a nice neutral pose like this. If you pop off any parts, you can just glue them back on pretty easily. Like this guy, if you were to squeeze this to try to get the leg on, you might pop a leg, but you can screw that back on or glue that back on. If you have anything that's too tight, just use your Allen wrench set, and you can loosen one of these screws, not both. So just pick one, just the inside or the outside, to be able to adjust the tops and the bottoms, but you do want this all to be pretty rigid. If you need any tightening for the joint where it connects to the body, that screw is underneath, but it can get stripped out pretty easily, so you have to be really gentle with it. I recommend if this is actually really loose, that you pull it out, put some super glue on it, push it back in, and then just rotate it around a couple of times, and that's just gonna make it stiffer. It won't glue it permanently in place, but it makes it a stiffer hold. But we should have gotten all those tight for you. But that's it. So one modified ESB ATST, nix the shields. So enjoy. If you have any questions and you want to go really, really slowly, we'd be happy to walk through this process with you for anybody who's purchased a painted model. So we can do that just to make sure that nothing happens. But aside from that, enjoy, and we'll have new painted models ready very soon, coming up next. So these are done. Thanks, guys.